A man regains consciousness in an unfamiliar place, confused about who he is and even questioning whether he might already be dead. Soon, he hears a woman's voice pleading with an ancestor to show mercy to her and her unborn child, asking to be allowed to give birth. The answer that follows is cold and final. Another voice declares that the Valley of the Medicine God has examined the case and found that the mother's foundation is damaged, her natural talent is lacking, and the fetus she carries possesses an ordinary potential. The voice then questions how the Luo clan could bear such a child without becoming a laughingstock among other families. Hearing this, the man becomes puzzled by the conversation and wonders what it means for a fetus to have an innate flaw. Then the shocking truth dawns on him. He has somehow been reincarnated into a fantasy world as an unborn child. He sees his mother before him and realizes that he is the very child they are discussing. Elder Jang appears determined to abandon him, and he begins to understand the cruelty of a world where even an unborn child can be discarded for being weak. The woman turns toward her husband, Tian, and asks if he truly agrees with this decision. But Tian angrily questions how her child with damaged root bones could possibly share the Luo clan's resources and fortune, comparing him to his other wife's fetus, which is considered a celestial blessing. The mother protests, reminding Tian that she was the one who transferred her innate true energy to him when he was injured and unconscious, and that this act caused her own child's root bones to be damaged. However, Tian remains unmoved and gives her only two options: leave the Luo clan or abandon the child. Shocked, the mother is left speechless. Inside her, the fetus wonders what kind of person could force a mother to make such a cruel choice and anxiously waits for her answer. Finally, the mother, whose name is revealed as Jang Kai, declares that she will leave the Luo clan. Both Tian and the elder are taken aback, but she firmly announces that from this day onward, her life and her child's have nothing to do with the clan. Hearing this, the unborn child silently vows to his mother that even though he is weak and born with damaged roots, he will train diligently and help them regain their honor. At that moment, an electronic voice echoes in his mind. A system called the Late Bloomer System has bound itself to him, recognizing his determination to cultivate. Excited yet confused, he celebrates the sudden appearance of a system but quickly grows frustrated at its name, shouting that he hasn't even been born yet to be called a late bloomer. He soon learns that the system's full name is the System of Late Blooming Greatness, and realizes that it seems to be urging him to strive even before birth. Amused and confused, he wonders whether this system might have appeared 300 years too early. Suddenly, the system projects a vision before him, showing fragments of his future, a harsh and painful path where both he and his mother, Jang Kai-shin, are mocked and looked down upon for their inability to cultivate. The vision continues to unfold. He watches his half-brother reach enlightenment and achieve the Tao, while he himself struggles to survive, kept alive only by the medicine his mother humbly begged for. The image grows darker as he sees his future self finally awaken the will to resist fate, but only after his mother's death. Overwhelmed by despair and anger, the unborn child shouts for the system to stop showing him this cruel destiny. Realizing that the system had indeed arrived centuries too early, he makes a firm decision. He will change this predetermined path. He swears that his life will not end in failure, that he will turn his fate into glory and become a legend that shakes the heavens. In response, the system releases his first mission, to begin cultivating of his own will and to astonish his mother. The reward offered is the fusion with the archaic sacred body. The fetus is momentarily stunned, but the system explains that this sacred body grants overwhelming physical strength, enough to challenge even the ancient emperors themselves. Encouraged, he decides to take advantage of his time in the womb, using fetal breathing to circulate spiritual energy naturally. His mother suddenly feels something unusual within her body. Alarmed yet astonished, she wonders if her child has truly begun cultivating before birth. Just then, the system announces that the mission has been completed and initiates the fusion process. Golden light surrounds him as the archaic sacred body merges with his essence, activating the legacy of ancient sages. Outside, a mysterious flash resembling lightning fills the sky, while within her consciousness, Jang Kai-shin sees the visions of towering ancient emperors before whom all heroes seem insignificant. A stream of golden spiritual energy surges through her body, repairing her damaged foundation. Confused, She wonders how such an extraordinary phenomenon could come from the child once declared defective. The system then introduces the structure of cultivation. The three foundational realms, blood transformation, cave heaven, and spirit manifestation, each divided into 10 stages. It adds that achieving certain levels before adulthood marks one as a supreme genius. Those who reach the spirit manifestation realm before maturity and step into the venerable realm are called miracles among miracles, the true embodiments of destiny. Finally, the system displays the child's new status. His name is now Wang. His archaic sacred body has already reached the first level of blood transformation, and in mere moments it surges through the second, third, and fourth stages. With newfound resolve, Ryuk declares that this is the beginning, the first step in rewriting his destiny and defying the fate that once bound him. Elsewhere, the mother arrives at a spacious residence and announces her return to her elder brother and sister-in-law. She is welcomed by her brother, Wang, and his wife, Jang Shichin. Her brother quickly explains that they had already sought help from a higher sect to find a way to heal her child, since no one dares to provoke the Luo clan directly. Qing responds in a sharp tone, accusing Jang Kai-shin of returning for assistance only after being cast out by the Luo clan. Her voice carries a mocking edge, as she implies that the Luo clan never allowed Jang Kai-shin to take any of the marriage alliance resources from the Mo clan's legitimate heirs, and that her so-called pride is merely a facade to hide her desperation. Jang Kai-shin answers quietly, saying that she seeks nothing but her child's safety. Her brother immediately intervenes, angered by his wife's words, and orders her to stop speaking. He assures his sister that the Jang clan will provide everything necessary to support her and her child. Trying to ease the tension, Wang tells his sister not to take Saiking's harshness to heart, explaining that his wife has a sharp tongue but a kind nature. Jang Kai-shin smiles faintly, saying she understands her sister-in-law well and holds no resentment. Meanwhile, the unborn child, Wang, observes everything from within the womb. Contrary to his expectations, he realizes that his mother isn't being mistreated. Instead, he feels genuine warmth and acceptance in the Jang household, something far beyond what he experienced in the Luo clan. His thoughts are soon interrupted when Jang Kai-shin's parents arrive, announcing their return along with an honored guest, Sage Miao from the Palace of Creation Sage. Wang is momentarily captivated by the sage's extraordinary beauty, thinking that her appearance could belong to the most enchanting figures of a Xiangxia world. Suddenly, his system reactivates, displaying a new mission under the title Late Blooming Greatness. Wang deduces that the system must respond automatically when encountering powerful individuals, and concludes that Sage Miao might be his best opportunity. If he can demonstrate his talent early, he believes it will make the clan value his mother more. As Jang Kai-shin respectfully steps forward to ask the sage for help, the unborn child prepares to impress her using the power of his archaic sacred body. Sage Miao gestures for everyone to wait outside, explaining that she will examine the fetus and its mother alone. She reassures Jang Kai-shin that she will not use spiritual energy during the examination, as the fetus appears to be fragile. Hearing the word weak, Wang reacts internally with sarcasm, thinking, if she will still call her that once she witnessed the strength of his archaic sacred body. As soon as the sage places her hand on Jang Kai-shin's wrist, her expression shifts drastically. A powerful ancient aura emanates from within the womb, something primal, as if drawn from the chaotic origins of the world itself. Alarmed, the mother asks what is happening, but the sage, clearly astonished, instead questions her if this child had truly been diagnosed as lacking innate power. Jang Kai-shin nods, confirming that such was the judgment of the Luo clan's healers. The sage frowns slightly and decides to verify the truth herself. Gathering her energy, she begins to examine the child's internal essence. Inside the womb, Wang senses that the sage is still unconvinced. Determined to show his strength, he commands his archaic sacred body to fully awaken, allowing its immense power to surge outward. The sage pauses, sensing the defiance within him. A faint smile forms on her lips as she remarks that this little one's spirit refuses to yield, and that had she not come by coincidence, the world might have lost an unmatched prodigy. Jang Kai-shin is left speechless. None of those present are aware of her child's true bone structure, yet the sage has sensed something extraordinary. She then proposes using a special treasure, an artifact said to reveal the truth behind all things, to shed light on the child's essence. Deeply grateful, the mother bows in thanks. When the sage and Jang Kai-shin step out of the hall, the waiting clan members grow uneasy. They assume that the examination must have ended so soon because the fetus could not be saved. But the sage quickly silences their worries, telling them not to make assumptions. She then delivers astonishing news. The child within Jang Kai-shin's womb is not only unharmed, but possesses a talent beyond compare. The sage declares that what she has witnessed is genuine, and that she considers it a blessing to have been present for such a revelation. The grandfather, confused and awestruck, asks how it could be possible when everyone was told the child had no natural gift. The sage dismisses that earlier diagnosis, calling it the foolish judgment of a blind doctor. Then, using her treasure, she projects a vision into the air before the Jang clan. A breathtaking scene unfolds, 9 golden dragons pulling an enormous bronze coffin across the heavens. The sight leaves everyone frozen in disbelief and reverence. The sage explains that even a single one of those sovereign dragons could destroy the entire Jang clan effortlessly. As the vision continues, the clan members wonder who rests within that massive coffin, until the image reveals a young man bearing a striking resemblance to Jang Kai-shin. The sage's expression turns solemn. She realizes that the archaic sacred body has reappeared within the Jang clan and declares that a future heavenly emperor is destined to be born among them. Overcome with emotion, the grandparents burst into tears of joy, thanking the heavens for blessing their lineage. Jang Kai-shin gazes down at her belly with pride, softly telling her child that he has brought her true honor. Turning to her, the sage speaks plainly, saying she will not waste words on formality. She offers to take the child into her care, to make him her personal disciple at the palace of eternal creation. She promises to guide him herself and nurture him until he becomes a force that shakes the world. The members of the Jang clan are once again left speechless when they realize what the sage's offer truly means. The position being extended is that of head disciple, a rank so prestigious that even heirs of the great imperial clans would fight desperately to obtain it. Inside the womb, Wang processes this with growing excitement. He knows that the Palace of Creation is a first-rate sect, far surpassing the system's basic requirement of joining a third-rate one. Eagerly, he wonders what kind of reward such an achievement will bring. Jang Kai-shin bows deeply, expressing her gratitude on behalf of herself and the entire Jang clan for the immense honor the sage has granted them. Inwardly, she reflects on how drastically her world has changed within a single day. Then, softly in her mind, she asks her unborn child if he too wishes to become the sage's disciple. Sage Miao smiles quietly to herself, thinking how fortunate she was to have followed her instincts and visited the Jang clan. Had she not done so, she might have missed the discovery of this extraordinary prodigy. At that very moment, Wang's system activates once again, showing him fleeting glimpses of his original tragic fate. Then, with a resonant chime, the system announces the completion of his current mission: join a third-rate sect or higher. Delighted, Wang celebrates inwardly, thrilled not only by the mission's completion, but also because the Palace of Creation ranks among the world's most powerful sects. Filled with confidence, he tells himself that with the archaic sacred body and a high-level cultivation art, there will be no obstacle he cannot overcome. The system then reveals his reward, a supreme cultivation technique known as the art of the heaven-devouring demon. The name alone leaves him stunned. The system goes on to explain that this technique revolves around drawing spiritual essence from the heavens and earth to form a natural vortex of cultivation. It is an adaptive, evolving art that can heal, refine, and exert overwhelming suppression over other energies. Realizing the magnitude of this gift, Wang resolves not to waste a single moment. He begins cultivating right there within his mother's womb, and in an instant, a golden spiritual current bursts forth from him, swirling through the hall like a living storm. The spectacle leaves everyone present in utter disbelief. Jang Kai-shin watches in awe, while her brother and sister-in-law stand frozen. Her brother murmurs in shock, wondering aloud how it's even possible for a child to begin cultivation before birth. The grandfather, eyes glistening with emotion, exclaims that the heavens have truly blessed their clan. Meanwhile, Sage Miao observes with deep satisfaction. With a disciple possessing the archaic sacred body, she thinks, no one will ever dare to call her lineage weak again. not even in the grand immortal palace tournament that will take place 100 years hence. She then speaks, declaring that every new disciple must receive a proper greeting gift from their master. As his new teacher, she will personally bestow a treasure upon him. Inside the womb, Wang feels an unshakable confidence. With his sacred body and the heaven-devouring demon art, he believes that whatever treasure she presents will instantly recognize him as its rightful owner. Wang calmly focuses his mind and spiritually summons the treasure, confident that subduing an ordinary artifact would pose no challenge to him. In response, the treasure instantly moves toward his mother's womb, merging directly with it. The sight leaves the sage stunned, her eyes widening in disbelief at the fact that an unborn child had managed to make a treasure recognize him as its master. But the phenomenon doesn't stop there. Once the system confirms the completion of the mission, Wang mentally issues another command, ordering the treasure, now known as the Heaven and Earth Fire Suppression Armor, to undergo an upgrade. The treasure responds immediately, radiating a powerful light as it transforms and evolves into an innate spirit treasure. Everyone present is left in awe. The clan members can only stare at the glowing aura surrounding Jang Kai-shin, unable to comprehend how an unborn child could not only subdue, but also elevate a treasure of such magnitude. The sage silently admits that she had intended to assist Wang in fusing with the item herself, yet he had achieved it entirely on his own, and even advanced it beyond her expectations. She concludes that with an innate spirit treasure bound to his soul, no ordinary cultivator in the future will be capable of harming him. Before leaving, Sage Miao announces that she will personally return when Wang reaches the cave heaven realm, to guide him to the sect and lead him into the wider world of cultivation. 3 days later, turmoil strikes again. A squad of soldiers from the Great Xia divine dynasty arrives at the Jang clan's estate, barging straight into the main hall and demanding the presence of the clan's head. Jang Kai-shin immediately senses their purpose. She realizes they must have learned of her and her child's expulsion from the Luo clan, and have come to annul the engagement tied to that connection. Inside the womb, Wang scoffs, recognizing the classic trope of betrayal and arrogance, and silently vows that this dynasty will live to regret its actions the moment he is born. The soldier leading the group steps forward and addresses Wang's uncle, formally reminding him of the marriage agreement that had been established decades earlier. Enraged, the uncle demands to know why they've entered his clan's hall so rudely. The leader introduces himself as General Wui and declares, without hesitation, that the marriage contract has been officially annulled. The uncle's fury erupts. He shouts that it was the Great Xia dynasty who first sought the political alliance, and now they dare to break it so shamelessly, showing no respect whatsoever to the Jang clan. General Wui coldly replies that word of Jang Kai-shin's expulsion has spread throughout the land, and that her child, no longer a recognized heir, makes the Jang clan unworthy of their dynasty's alliance. From within the womb, Wang listens in contempt. He mocks the general's ignorance in his heart and vows that one day this same man will kneel before him, begging him to accept their so-called princess. General Wui continues, saying that their emperor's mercy is the only reason he personally came to deliver the message. Otherwise, the Jang clan would have been made to crawl to the imperial court to cancel the engagement themselves. He adds arrogantly that their princess deserves an imperial marriage, not a union with a child rumored to possess a broken foundation. The uncle, enraged by the insult, threatens to have General Wui executed for his insolence and for slandering his nephew inside their own hall. The general laughs scornfully and suddenly releases an attack aimed directly at the unborn child, intending to destroy what he calls useless trash. Wang's fury ignites instantly. The moment the strike approaches his mother, a massive spiritual hand materializes out of thin air, effortlessly blocking the general's attack. General Wui recoils in horror and shouts for reinforcements, summoning the Ming elders. 2 elderly men appear soon after, their faces twisted with arrogance. They laugh mockingly at the Jang family's patriarch, claiming they should be grateful for their attention and even offering to train him. General Wui introduces them proudly as the Ming elders, cultivators of high standing within the Great Xia dynasty's court. Observing quietly from the womb, Wang notes their presence and calmly assesses their strength, acknowledging that these 2 old ghosts possess cultivation levels that are far from ordinary. The uncle shouted angrily, accusing the great Xia dynasty of joining forces with the infamous and disgraceful elders, questioning whether their dynasty felt no shame. One of the elders replied harshly, asking condescendingly if it was the uncle's turn to speak. The elder attacked, forcing the grandfather to intervene and protect his nephew, but the impact pushed him back as he caught him. Amid the chaos, the other elder took advantage of the distraction and launched a deadly sword strike toward the pregnant Jang Kai-shin, mocking that the old man could not protect everyone at once. At that moment, Wang's system triggered an alert of a fatal threat and issued an emergency mission to protect his mother's life. Filled with anger, Wang considered attacking a pregnant woman to be the lowest act possible. He activated the heaven-devouring demon art, commanding it to absorb the attack. A vortex formed, drawing in the spiritual energy from the elders' strikes, leaving them shocked and confused as their power suddenly vanished. The grandfather looked around in confusion, wondering who had stepped in to assist the Jang family. The frightened elders then attacked together, releasing blue ghostly hands. Wang responded by activating his innate spirit treasure, forming the heaven and earth cold flame barrier with the intent to incinerate them. The flames burst forth with immense force, terrifying the elders as they realized they were facing an innate spirit treasure. They could not understand how a small clan like the Jang could possess such a weapon. One of them shouted for the unknown entity to reveal itself instead of hiding in the shadows. The system then announced the successful completion of the mission to survive a life-and-death situation and granted Wang a reward, the 9-turn Great Mysterious Rebirth Pill. The description explained that this pill could instantly restore spiritual energy after consumption. Feeling reassured, Wang vowed to restore the Jang clan's honor from that day onward. Meanwhile, far away, Sage Miao sensed the activation of the spirit treasure and was surprised that her disciple had already used it just 3 days after she had left. She focused her spiritual power to observe the situation, and her projection appeared above the Jang family's hall, demanding to know who the fool was that dared to harm her disciple. She descended powerfully into the hall, declaring that the child before them was the head disciple of the Palace of Eternal Creation, and demanded to know who had given them the courage to attack him. Wang was astonished by his master's sudden appearance, realizing that she must have left an emergency safeguard within the treasure. One of the elders refused to believe her words and struck out at the sage's projection, accusing her of deceit. The sage effortlessly countered the attack, and Wang scoffed inwardly at the arrogance of an ancient emperor daring to challenge an ancient sage. Relieved that his master had intervened, he observed as both elders stood frozen in disbelief. Attempting to recover, one of the elders tried to speak diplomatically, asking the sage to reveal her name so their dynasty could seek her guidance in the future. The sage dismissed him with a cold tone, stating that a fourth-rate ancient emperor was not even qualified to hear her name. At that moment, the Jang family's grandfather activated the spirit crane that the sage had previously left behind and directed it toward one of the elders, striking him down violently and leaving him bloodied on the floor. General Wui stood in shock, unable to comprehend how a mere projection of divine consciousness could suppress an ancient emperor. He finally realized that this woman truly belonged to the Palace of Eternal Creation, and that the child the Luo clan had abandoned as talentless would, in reality, be entering that very palace. Meanwhile, the fetus Wang thought to himself that it was already far too late for them to regret their choices. The defeated elder urged the general to retreat, while General Wui, pale with fear, looked up at the sage's projection. Unable to believe what he was witnessing, he cursed the Luo clan under his breath for their foolishness in casting away a genius capable of joining the Palace of Creation, and thus bringing disaster upon the great Xia dynasty. The Jang family's grandfather then respectfully asked the sage to spare the lives of these people, saying he wanted them to live long enough to witness what kind of miracle his grandson would become in the future. The sage accepted and ordered them to leave alive, telling them to deliver her message to their dynasty, that the marriage contract between the Jang family and the great Xia dynasty was annulled. Wang felt pleased, wondering whether his master intended to assist him further. However, the sage changed her mind and spoke again, declaring firmly that it was not for them to annul a marriage involving her disciple. She released a powerful wave of energy, knocking the soldiers backward, then threw the annulment document at them, announcing that her disciple was the one rejecting marriage with their dynasty's princess. She shouted at them to leave immediately and warned that if they failed to return the engagement gifts, she would personally come to retrieve them. Terrified and defeated, General Wui had no choice but to agree. After the soldiers departed, the members of the Jang family bowed respectfully before the sage. The uncle stepped forward first, expressing his deep gratitude, saying that without her intervention and the use of the spirit treasure, the Jang clan would have faced a calamity. The grandfather followed, offering the family's heartfelt thanks for her great kindness. The sage told them not to dwell on gratitude, explaining that since she had accepted Wang as her disciple, their family's fate was now tied to hers. However, she added that saying she had used the spirit treasure herself was not entirely correct. At that, the spirit crane laughed softly and said its master was too honest to claim credit for what truly belonged to her disciple. The sage then assured the grandfather that the family should continue to provide Wang with every possible resource to aid his future growth. Hearing this, Wang felt moved and thought to himself, "You truly are my real master." Understanding what the sage meant, the grandfather dismissed the others so that he could speak to her in private. Once they were alone, he asked what kind of physical constitution his grandson possessed that allowed him to wield a spirit treasure while still unborn. The sage revealed that the child carried the legendary archaic sacred body, leaving the grandfather completely stunned. She went on to explain that even she did not know how he could already control a treasure in the womb, as the last recorded appearance of such a body was hundreds of thousands of years ago. She added that since the child had already begun cultivating, it was impossible to predict how immense his power would be at birth. Overjoyed, the grandfather exclaimed that heaven had indeed blessed their clan. The sage cautioned him, however, that the archaic sacred body required enormous resources to cultivate properly, and that its foundation must be strengthened carefully before the child entered the palace of creation. The grandfather thanked her for the advice and swore that the Jang clan would gather all its strength to build a solid foundation for Jang Wang. Hearing this, the uncle's wife declared happily that the rise of the Jang clan had finally begun, while the uncle added that they would one day make the Luo clan regret their decision. Meanwhile, within the womb, Wang reflected on everything that had occurred. He realized that this world was truly ruled by power. His master had barely acted, yet her enemies had been utterly crushed. Determined, he vowed that he would not simply start from the same line as others. He would begin his victory from within the womb itself. Later, the family assembled to meet the ancestor of the Jang clan. The ancestor stated that he was already aware of the child's rare physical constitution. Though such a body held unimaginable potential, it also demanded vast and endless resources. Declaring his resolve, the ancestor announced that he would personally relinquish all of his own cultivation resources to the child. Jiang Kai-shin protested, saying that the ancestor required nearly half of the clan's wealth for his own cultivation, and that giving it all away would mean the entire clan's future would rest solely on this one child. But the ancestor remained firm, insisting that his decision was final. He also handed over the precious resources gifted by Sage Miao. The mother accepted them gratefully on behalf of her son. At that moment, Wang's system issued a new mission: cultivate continuously for 1 month and impress the ancestor. The reward for success was revealed to be the supreme heavenly bone. Wang felt thrilled upon hearing about the new reward. The system explained that the supreme heavenly bone was a power that only appeared in ancient divine beings, and that it granted its bearer a unique innate ability. Confident in his progress, Wang believed that with his current resources and the heaven-devouring demon technique, he could reach the spirit manifestation realm before birth. He thought that achieving such a level as a fetus would be enough to astonish his ancestor, and without delay, he began cultivating once again. A month passed. The ancestor, having spent the entire time guarding the Jang family's young prodigy to ensure his safety, began to feel restless. He realized that he had been so focused on protection that he had not checked on the boy's cultivation progress. Curious, he finally examined his grandson's level, and was completely stunned to discover that Wang had already reached the peak of the spirit manifestation realm within just 1 month. At that very moment, Wang was reflecting on his own progress, noting that he had reached that peak 3 days earlier. Now, he wondered if he could take the next step and attempt to break through to the venerable realm. As soon as the ancestor made his discovery, the system notified Wang that the Impress the Ancestor mission had been completed. Wang smiled faintly to himself, amused by how easily his ancestor had been impressed. The reward appeared before him, the supreme heavenly bone, taking form as a radiant spiritual skeleton. The immense aura it emitted instantly loosened the bottleneck that had been blocking his advancement. Without delay, the system initiated the fusion process. Seizing the moment, Wang decided to surprise his ancestor even further by borrowing the heavenly bone's power during the fusion to break through to the venerable realm. As the fusion began, he noticed a wave of purple energy radiating from the heavenly bone, and satisfaction filled him. Meanwhile, the ancestor sensed the surge of power and became alarmed, realizing his grandson was attempting a breakthrough. He worried that such a sudden advance could harm the boy's foundation. At the same time, Jang Kai-shin felt an unfamiliar but powerful energy stirring within her womb. Despite their fears, the breakthrough succeeded smoothly. Wang discovered that the divine ability granted by the supreme heavenly bone was connected to time itself. He acknowledged that he might have been too hasty, knowing the venerable realm should have been his limit at this stage. However, with control over time, he realized he could now slow its flow, allowing him to continue progressing even before his birth. The ancestor felt awash over him as an overwhelming aura filled the hall, carrying traces of the laws of time. He admitted to himself that his grandson's abilities were now beyond his comprehension, even before entering the world. Laughing joyfully, he once again declared that heaven had truly blessed the Jang family. A few months later, Jang Kai-shin went into labor. Her family waited anxiously outside the room for 3 long hours as the midwife urged her to hold on. At the moment of his birth, Wang's system announced that he had reached the innate ancient immortal realm. His arrival triggered a massive celestial phenomenon that drew eminent figures from across the lands, who descended from the clouds to offer their congratulations. Observers marveled that an ordinary true immortal could cause such wonders. One of them realized the spectacle must be connected to the child the great Xia dynasty had rejected. A wiser onlooker dismissed that as old gossip, and informed the crowd that the Jang family's infant was exceptional enough to have been accepted as a disciple by a sage of the palace of eternal creation while still in the womb. Before long, the emperor of the great Xia dynasty himself appeared, compelled to attend by the commotion. More legendary portents manifested in succession: the golden lotus of the bitter sea, brilliant rivers and mountains, and then radiant stars strewn across the sky. The emperor recognized the final sign, the yin-yang life and death diagram, a phenomenon not witnessed in 1,000 years, yet the newborn was not finished. Wang combined all 5 great omens into a single, overwhelming vision, and the immortal king descended from the 9 heavens. The Jang clan's ancestor wept with pride, declaring that his grandson Wang carried the bearing of a future great emperor. The emperor of the great Xia dynasty felt deep regret, briefly wishing the child had been born to his own house, and considering whether to reverse the marriage arrangement, though he ultimately rejected the idea out of shame. Meanwhile, Jang Kai-shin held her son and told him he was her true pride. Observers remarked that the Luo clan must now feel bitter remorse. But the emperor drew a darker conclusion. Having offended such a prodigy, their only remaining option might be to eliminate him in his cradle. 5 years later, Wang appeared as a young child sitting in meditation, calmly using his ability to slow the flow of time. Although he had already reached the peak of the ancient king realm, he still felt that his progress was far too slow. His concentration was soon interrupted by a few overly enthusiastic attendants who urged him to rest and offered him immortal fruit. Annoyed by their excitement, Wang ended his meditation and stood to greet his ancestor, who had been waiting for him. The ancestor praised him warmly, remarking that at just 5 years old, Wang had already achieved the peak of the ancient king realm, and that in only a few more years, even he might be unable to keep up with the boy's growth. Wang, however, replied humbly, explaining that he had not made any progress for over a month and was currently stuck at a bottleneck. In truth, Wang was facing a deeper problem. A year earlier, his system had assigned him a mission requiring him to enter a secret realm. However, leaving the clan was impossible because both the great Xia dynasty and the Luo clan had issued kill orders against him. To make matters worse, Wang had begun to sense a hidden danger within the Jang clan itself. During training one day, he felt a dark, venomous aura emanating from the clan's back mountain. Following the source of the disturbance, he discovered the presence of a powerful, malevolent entity. Realizing that his current strength was far from enough to confront it, he investigated further and found a demon suppression array, a formation meant to seal such threats. However, even this powerful seal showed signs of weakening. With a dangerous being sealed nearby and his enemies outside plotting his death, Wang concluded that his current strength was nowhere near sufficient. He decided he had to find a secret realm to accelerate his growth. Returning to his conversation with his ancestor, Wang mentioned that he had sensed something ominous in the back mountain. The ancestor confirmed he had noticed it as well and assured him that under normal circumstances, the seal would hold. However, before he could finish speaking, a clan member rushed in with alarming news. A sage's secret realm had appeared in the Eastern Sea, and the great Xia dynasty and the Luo clan had already formed an alliance to seize control of it. The ancestor immediately summoned a clan meeting. Wang insisted on taking part, stating that since he had already reached the ancient king realm, he was qualified to attend. The ancestor agreed and allowed him to join. When the meeting began, the ancestor opened by saying that the first matter to discuss concerned his grandson. Wang stood before the assembly and explained that although he had reached the peak of his realm months ago, he had been unable to advance further and therefore wished to leave the clan to gain real-world experience. After confirming his cultivation level, the elders expressed admiration for his astonishing progress, but unanimously opposed the idea of him leaving. They argued that the outside world was too dangerous and that their enemies had clearly set a trap for him. The ancestor proposed an alternative, to acquire a break the ancient pill to help him overcome his bottleneck instead of letting him take such a risk. The uncle immediately supported this suggestion. Wang, however, felt that their excessive concern and admiration had become a cage, holding back his growth. Interrupting the discussion, Wang asked them to listen. He acknowledged their worries but questioned how he could ever become stronger if he continued to hide behind the clan whenever danger appeared. He admitted that even though he had reached the peak of his realm, he had never once faced a true life-and-death battle. He reminded them of the treasure his master had given him, an artifact so powerful that even an ancient emperor would struggle to capture him. With firm determination, he pleaded with them to allow him to leave and temper himself in the outside world. After hearing his reasoning, the uncle sighed and commented that none of them had faced such dangers at the age of 5. The ancestor silently reflected that Wang had already surpassed most of them in cultivation and thus deserved the right to make his own choices. Reluctantly, he agreed, though not without warning him first. He told Wang that the geniuses of the Luo clan and the great Xia dynasty had already entered the newly discovered secret realm, and that they had prepared an ambush for him, ancient emperors among them, ready to strike the moment his identity was exposed. Wang replied with calm confidence, asking disdainfully about if an ancient emperor was really something to fear. The ancestor laughed heartily, clearly impressed by his grandson's fearless spirit, and declared that this was the true pride of their clan. He granted Wang permission to leave, but reminded him to be cautious. Wang thanked him sincerely before setting off without delay. From a distance, his mother watched him depart, silently praying for his safe return. Wang arrived at the entrance of the secret realm and noticed that the area was full of activity and excitement. To gather some information, he approached a nearby cultivator and politely asked whether this was the ancient sage's secret realm. The man looked irritated at first, but when his eyes fell on Wang's fine clothes, he quickly realized this was no ordinary youth, likely a young master from an influential clan. His tone changed immediately as he confirmed that it was indeed the place. Wang modestly introduced himself as a disciple from a small, humble sect before asking why so many children and young cultivators had gathered there. The man replied bitterly that the great Xia dynasty and the Luo clan had monopolized the secret realm, allowing only participants under the age of 18 to enter. Hearing this, Wang quietly wondered which so-called geniuses his enemies had sent this time. Before long, a delegation from the great Xia divine dynasty arrived. At its head was the Grand Princess Xia Minqian, whose beauty left the onlookers speechless. One of her attendants began to flatter her while mocking the other participants, but the princess calmly stopped her, reminding her not to underestimate anyone. She mentioned 2 exceptional competitors in particular, the mysterious son of the young Luo clan leader and the Chilean son of the Jang clan. Her tone carried a trace of regret, as she remarked that it was unfortunate for their dynasty to have lost such a strong ally. The attendant, embarrassed, muttered that the blame lay with the arrogant General Wu Kai. However, the princess cut her off sharply, telling her to learn from the mistake instead of dwelling on it. Both attendants bowed and agreed. From a distance, Wang observed the princess quietly. He admired her calm and grace, noting that she carried none of the arrogance or cruelty shown by General Wu Kai when he had insulted his family. A moment later, the Luo clan made their entrance, arriving in a grand carriage surrounded by crackling lightning. Seeing them, Wang smiled faintly, thinking that he had almost feared they might not appear. An elder of the Luo clan stepped forward and introduced their chosen participant, Luo Dong, to the Grand Princess. Luo Dong attempted to greet her with confidence, but the princess completely ignored him and instead spoke directly to the female elder beside him, suggesting that their groups cooperate to open the secret realm. Luo Dong's smile faltered, and he turned away, humiliated and angry. The elders from both factions began their preparations, joining forces to open the gate of the ancient sage's secret realm. Once the barrier started to part, all young participants were instructed to enter at once. Wang stepped forward, his expression calm but resolute, thinking to himself that the moment had come. It was time for the Luo clan to pay for what they had done. As Wang approached the gate, the female elder of the Luo clan, Wan Qi, caught sight of him. Her eyes narrowed as she noticed his resemblance to Jang Kai-shin. Realizing the connection, she quickly deduced that he must be the Jang clan's Prodigy and was astonished that he had the nerve to appear in such a dangerous place. She tried to block his path, but Wang effortlessly sidestepped her and entered the secret realm without hesitation. Outside, Elder Wan Qi immediately decided to report his presence to her clan. With a cold expression, she swore that since Wang had dared to come here, he would not be leaving alive. Meanwhile, inside the secret realm, Wang began his exploration. He soon encountered several spiritual beasts and quickly assessed that they were made entirely of condensed spiritual energy. Smiling faintly, he thought that these creatures had walked right into his trap. Though he defeated them with ease, he noted that they posed little challenge and provided no real benefit. His system's rewards remained far more valuable. Still, Wang stayed alert. He knew that both the Luo clan and the Great Xia dynasty were likely monitoring his every move and preparing an ambush for him once he left. That knowledge strengthened his resolve to use this opportunity to grow stronger. His current power, he thought, would not be enough to deal with what awaited him outside. Then his system suddenly chimed, announcing the completion of the Locate the Ancient Sage's Secret Realm mission. The reward was astonishing, an infusion of 100 years of cultivation. Overjoyed, Wang immediately sat down in meditation to absorb the immense energy pouring into him. Moments later, a brilliant pillar of golden light erupted from his body, shooting straight into the sky. The phenomenon caught the attention of every young cultivator in the secret realm. As the golden radiance expanded, the onlookers rushed toward the source, expecting the birth of a divine treasure. However, when they arrived, they realized what they were witnessing was no treasure manifestation. It was a celestial thunder tribulation, one unlike any other. Someone among them gasped, recognizing it as a ninefold thunder tribulation compressed into a single devastating strike, a phenomenon rarely seen even in ancient times. Luo Dong, the Luo clan's so-called prodigy, saw this as a chance to impress Princess Meng. He turned to her eagerly and suggested that they join forces to claim whatever treasure was about to appear. The princess, however, remained cautious, warning him that the scale of this tribulation was far beyond what they could predict. Luo Dong ignored her concern, insisting that they act quickly, while inwardly thinking that winning the favor of this remarkable woman was worth any risk. At the center of the raging storm, Wang stood firm, facing the celestial tribulation head-on. The lightning gathered into the shape of a massive palace, radiating destructive power. The first bolt struck him with immense force, yet Wang merely scoffed at its weakness before activating the heaven-devouring demon art to absorb its energy. As the tribulation intensified, a towering armored warrior of lightning emerged from within the storm. The figure attacked relentlessly, but Wang met each strike with ease, deflecting the blows and countering with flawless precision. When the lightning warrior unleashed a violent surge of energy in frustration, Wang responded by executing his clan's strongest sword technique, cutting through the storm and delivering a decisive blow. From a distance, the other cultivators watched in disbelief. None could understand what kind of being could provoke such a terrifying thunder tribulation. Then, through the flashing light, someone spotted a human silhouette at the heart of the tempest. Gasps spread through the crowd as Princess Meng reached a shocking conclusion. Someone was undergoing a tribulation to ascend to the ancient Emperor realm. Given that the secret realm only allowed those under 18, it meant that the person achieving this was still a youth, something unheard of in all of history. Luo Dong stared at the storm, realizing that whoever was inside had taken the full force of the lightning yet remained unscathed. A chill ran through him as he decided that such a person would become a future calamity if allowed to live. Concealing his murderous intent, he resolved to strike during the chaos, hopping to assassinate the youth while the thunder covered his actions. The tribulation grew stronger, its force shaking the entire realm. The sky cracked apart and the earth trembled as bolts of energy threatened to tear the space itself. Panicked cultivators scattered in all directions, fleeing for their lives. Amid the chaos, Luo Dong rushed forward to shield Princess Meng from the shockwave. She thanked him calmly for his help. When the storm finally subsided, the mysterious figure at its center was nowhere to be seen. Believing he had perished during the trial, the onlookers assumed his body and soul had both been obliterated. Seizing the moment, Luo Dong once again tried to persuade the princess to form an alliance with him, arguing that the secret realm was too dangerous and that they should look out for each other. The princess declined politely, explaining that she already had a team. With a faint hint of sarcasm, she added that his strength was far too overwhelming to join a group as modest as hers. Her words left Luo Dong humiliated. Rage burned inside him as he swore that Princess Meng would one day be his, and no one else would dare to refuse him. Yet even as he fumed, the princess's eyes lingered briefly on the spot where the tribulation had ended. She found herself quietly impressed by the mysterious young man's composure and striking appearance. Sitting quietly, Wang thought about how he needed to find new martial techniques. Continuing to use his clan's signature skills would make it too easy for others to identify him. As he pondered, the princess approached, catching his attention. Wang was momentarily surprised by her presence and quickly recognized that she was from the Xia dynasty, though it seemed she hadn't recognized him. She asked playfully if he was afraid of her. Wang decided to act the part of an innocent boy, smiling shyly and complimenting her beauty. His charm worked. She laughed softly, pinched his cheek, and praised his courage. Pretending to be timid, Wang invented a story about how his clan had fallen and how he had entered the secret realm out of desperation, lacking cultivation resources. Moved by his words, Princess Meng pitied him and invited him to join her group for safety. Wang accepted her offer with feigned excitement. Meanwhile, Luo Dong was consumed by anger and jealousy as he watched them from a distance. Furious that this mysterious boy had disrupted his plans with the princess, he began to secretly track her team. Not long after, a spiritual wolf leapt out from the shadows to attack. Wang effortlessly caught its strike with one hand, shocking the princess, who was astonished by his physical strength. Wang, inwardly amused, realized that even while holding back, he had revealed more power than he intended. At the same time, he could sense that Luo Dong was still following them. Eventually, Luo Dong revealed himself, declaring that he had entered the secret realm solely for the princess. He unleashed a powerful artifact, the ancient trapping pearl, in an attempt to imprison her. Wang merely scoffed inwardly at the artifact's strength, finding it unimpressive. Luo Dong, grinning maliciously, revealed his lustful intent and his desire for her rare, exquisite Nine-yin body, a revelation that piqued Wang's interest. Later, as the group rested around a campfire, Wang continued to play his role. He looked up at the princess with wide, innocent eyes and asked timidly if he could sleep near her because he felt scared. Amused, the princess teased him, asking how a little monster, capable of tearing apart spiritual beasts, could possibly be frightened. Wang insisted that he truly was and then, pretending to be serious, asked whether she had a Tao companion. The princess's expression dimmed slightly as she replied that she did not. Wang acted surprised, asking how someone as beautiful and noble as Princess Meng could have no suitors. She explained that every man who approached her carried ulterior motives and impure desires. Curious, Wang asked what kind of motives she meant. With a touch of hesitation, she confided in him, asking if he had ever heard of the exquisite Nine-yin body. She explained that this physique was highly coveted by those who practiced dual cultivation, as it could greatly enhance their strength. For that reason, she said, corrupt cultivators often hunted women with this body, using them as mere vessels for their advancement. Feigning anger, Wang clenched his fist and declared that he would protect her from anyone who dared to approach her with bad intentions. The princess smiled at his display of childish bravery and told him to rest as they sat beside the fire. However, Wang could still sense Luo Dong lurking nearby, watching from the darkness. Irritated by the constant surveillance, he decided it was time to get rid of that pest once and for all. Standing up, he quietly left the camp to draw Luo Dong away. Noticing his absence, the princess hurried after him, gently scolding him for being reckless and wandering off alone. As Wang began to apologize, Luo Dong, who had been observing them with growing jealousy, finally stepped out of hiding and attacked, shouting furiously that Wang was seeking death. Wang turned toward Luo Dong with a calm expression and said evenly that he had been waiting for him. Luo Dong immediately launched an attack, but before the strike could land, Princess Meng stepped in front of Wang, demanding to know what Luo Dong intended to do. Luo Dong let out a dark laugh and replied that they would find out soon enough. Without another word, he hurled the ancient trapping pearl at them, and in an instant, both Wang and the princess were sealed inside its spatial barrier. Furious, the princess shouted that her dynasty would never forgive him for this act and ordered him to release them immediately if he didn't want to provoke a war. Luo Dong ignored her threats with a smug smile and told her to go ahead and try. The princess glared at him coldly, warning that he would come to regret his arrogance. She then attempted to activate her dynasty's rescue seal, but the sigil flickered weakly and shattered within the pearl's domain. Luo Dong sneered, explaining that the artifact had been personally refined by his ancestor, Wan Qi, who was an expert in the laws of space. He went on to boast that the pearl completely nullified spiritual energy operations for anyone below the ancient emperor realm, advising her to stop struggling and surrender quietly. Realizing the seriousness of the situation, the princess quickly formulated a plan. Leaning close to Wang, she whispered that she would use a special technique to send him out of the secret realm and ordered him to call upon her dynasty's forces the moment he escaped. Before she could act, however, Luo Dong turned his attention toward Wang. With a mocking grin, he said that he must be the abandoned child of the Luo clan from 5 years ago. The princess looked at him in confusion, not understanding what he meant. Wang remained calm and answered in a measured voice, clarifying 2 things. First, he stated firmly that he had no connection whatsoever with that accursed Luo clan and that his name was Wang. Second, with a faint smirk, he asked Luo Dong sarcastically if he truly believed the battle had already been decided. Luo Dong laughed mockingly, ridiculing Wang for boasting even while standing at the edge of death. He declared that he would personally end Wang's life on behalf of his clan. The princess, still struggling against the pearl's oppressive power, shouted that he was a shameless demon. Convinced that escape was impossible, she began to consider sacrificing herself to create an opening for Wang to flee and bring reinforcements. But Wang immediately rejected her idea. Telling her to rest, he said that he had a much simpler solution. Slowly, he rose into the air, surrounded by a blinding golden aura. Luo Dong froze, stunned that Wang could still use spiritual energy inside the ancient trapping pearl. Wang looked down at the artifact with disdain, calling it a broken bead. With a flick of his hand, the confining power around them shattered like glass. In an instant, he appeared before Luo Dong and said coolly that he didn't like being looked down upon. Then he simply reached out and tapped Luo Dong's forehead with 1 finger. That single touch caused Luo Dong's spiritual energy to collapse entirely, and the sound of breaking bones echoed through the space. He fell to the ground in agony, completely helpless. The princess stared in disbelief as Luo Dong writhed, screaming that such a thing was impossible. Standing over him, Wang asked sarcastically whether he was now satisfied with the power of the abandoned child of the Luo clan. Luo Dong, terrified, begged for his life, swearing that he would never reveal what had happened. Wang looked down at him with contempt and asked if he truly thought he feared the Luo clan. He declared that before reaching adulthood, he would visit them personally, but for now, he would take a little interest. He pressed his palm toward Luo Dong's chest, planting a glowing golden core of energy within him. Luo Dong's eyes widened in horror as he asked what Wang had done. Wang replied calmly that he was not bloodthirsty. His mother had taught him the value of mercy. Therefore, he would give him a chance. If he could reach his ancestor and have the golden core removed within the time it takes 3 sticks of incense to burn, he might live. The princess warned Wang that letting Luo Dong go would only invite disaster for him and the Jang family. Wang reassured her with a faint smile, saying that the little thief wouldn't get far. As Luo Dong staggered away, screaming threats of revenge and vowing to destroy the Jang clan and crush every bone in Wang's body, Wang calmly began to count down from 3. When he reached 1, a thunderous explosion erupted in the distance, and Luo Dong's body was obliterated. Wang turned to the stunned princess and smiled casually, saying that he had been joking about showing mercy, and that he rarely followed his mother's advice anyway. After watching what happened, Princess Minqian confirmed to herself that this truly was the Jang clan's divine child. She recalled her father's lingering regret about breaking the engagement and thought this encounter might offer a way to make amends. The two went together to the site of the explosion. Wang downplayed the lofty label, saying his cultivation had been strong from birth and that he had only caused a commotion. The princess then asked if he had been responsible for the thunder tribulation that had torn the secret realm apart. He answered calmly that he had indeed caused it, adding that he had not expected a routine tribulation to break through to the peak of the ancient emperor realm and stir so much trouble. He sighed that heaven was envious of great talent. The princess was taken aback by both his power and his composure, struck by the thought that he seemed like an ancient god in mortal form and wondering what he might become. She chastised herself for indulging such thoughts. Noticing her silence, Wang asked if she was upset and confessed that he had deliberately kept her close earlier to use as bait and draw out Luo Dong. She told him she was not petty or angry. Rather, she should thank him for removing a hidden danger. Wang relaxed visibly at that. Later, by the campfire, the princess reflected on the rumors that the Jang clan's son might be a reincarnation of a great ancient emperor and felt those rumors now had some basis. She admired his talent, craftiness, and eloquence, concluding that few of his generation could match him. Wang broke her train of thought and returned to his innocent act, asking who would be lucky enough to marry Big Sister Ming in the future. The question embarrassed her, and she found his odd remarks puzzling. Their conversation then turned serious. The princess warned him that he underestimated the Luo clan's resolve. Luo Dong was of direct lineage, and their ancestors would not let the matter drop. She reminded Wang of the ambush the Great Xia dynasty and the Luo clan had prepared outside the secret realm. Wang replied casually that he could kill Luo Dong with a single palm strike. The princess challenged his confidence, asking what he would do when the Luo clan's true power descended on him. She explained that her clan had many experts who could aid his escape, and then offered him a spiritual treasure from her father that could conceal his aura. She insisted he accept it, saying he had helped her, and that the Great Xia dynasty might not always remain an enemy. Wang accepted the gift but made his stance clear. Their bond was personal, not political. He harbored no goodwill toward her dynasty, and he intended to make General Wui pay for insulting his mother and wronging his clan. Unexpectedly, the princess asked him what he would do if she handed General Wui over to Wang and his family. Wang wondered whether Princess Minqian really had the authority to hand over General Wui. The princess replied that her father had been deceived by the Luo clan, which was why he had considered breaking the engagement. But if they surrendered the general, and it would ease relations between the factions, then the Great Xia dynasty would likely accept that. She also prepared to offer Wang her jade pendant as part of that concession. Wang observed that the princess believed in him because she had seen a glimpse of his power at the peak of the ancient emperor realm, something her father had never witnessed. To most people, he remained only the abandoned child of the Luo clan, someone they would never take seriously. When the princess asked the boy to speak clearly, and if he was also refusing the jade pendant, Wang explained about why he hesitated in taking it. He had suffered a great deal of suffering, and he did not want his friend, the eldest princess, watched by all, to endure similar pain or be given cause to regret her choice. Accepting such a gift lightly would cost him his self-respect. The princess blushed when he called her a friend. Wang, already resolved, said he understood her intention, and that because of that he could not accept the pendant casually. He wanted to first prove her judgment right to the world. Only then would he accept the pendant with honor. The princess rose quickly, nodding that even at a young age he spoke smoothly and that his excuses always hid a principle. Wang told her to wait. He promised that the whole great Xia dynasty would learn his name. He then produced the divine item his master had given him and used it to contact her. The great sage at first mocked him for forgetting her in good times and calling when trouble arose, but Wang had a single request. He explained that during a past fight with someone from the Luo clan, the remains left behind suggested the involvement of a fourth-level ancient emperor. If that trail led back to the Luo clan, an ancient sage from their side would surely appear. Wang asked his master to set up a formation to hide their location from such detection for the duration of one incense stick. Although the master teased him, she recognized his talent and agreed to help. With assistance arranged, Wang rose into the air and announced to the cultivators in the secret realm that he would purge the place. He warned that he would use his full strength and could not guarantee anyone's safety. He ordered everyone to ascend and assemble behind him within a quarter of an hour, and warned that those who refused would bear the consequences. The scene shifted to the ground where Princess Meng instructed everyone from the great Xia dynasty to ascend into the sky with her if they wished to survive. Some of the cultivators hesitated, skeptical of following the command of a 5-year-old child. Seeing their hesitation, the princess turned slightly, a faint, unsettling smile crossing her lips as she asked if anyone dared to question the judgment of the eldest princess. Her tone alone silenced all doubt, and the group quickly took to the air, gathering behind Wang. Others observing the situation decided to follow as well. They had worked hard to explore the secret realm and did not want to risk everything by staying behind. They reasoned that if even the eldest princess of the great Xia dynasty was willing to obey the boy, then it must be the right choice. However, several cultivators from the Luo clan remained arrogant. They knew the rumors that Wang was the abandoned child of their clan, supposedly born with a damaged foundation, and they dismissed him with scorn. Though they had also heard the legend that at his birth he had reached the realm of an innate true immortal, they doubted it was true. One woman from the Luo clan even insulted the princess, shouting that she had flown into the sky out of fear, and that such cowardice would prevent her from ever attaining the great Tao. Meanwhile, high above, Wang was already prepared. He looked down coldly and said that despite being given time, they seemed eager for their own destruction. Worse, they had insulted his friend, calling her a coward unworthy of the great Tao. For that, he declared, they would now face the price. Wang summoned his energy, and a colossal sword of pure spiritual power materialized in the air. He looked at it calmly, wondering aloud how those ignorant fools expected to attain the Tao beneath his blade. He then ordered his soul to sever the entire secret realm. The energy sword descended, tearing through space and time as it struck the ground. The impact fractured the realm itself. Cracks spread everywhere as the entire dimension began to collapse. Spiritual beasts and ancient monsters burst free, and those who had defied his warning tried desperately to resist the blow, but they were instantly destroyed. The cultivators who had followed Wang watched in stunned silence, unable to believe such immense power could come from a child. The princess, equally astonished, realized that this was the power Wang had intended to demonstrate to her father. She then suddenly realized her mistake. She had forgotten to activate the recording stone to capture the event. When the chaos subsided and the secret realm fully collapsed, Wang gathered the vast spiritual energy that remained, absorbing it until his strength was completely restored. He turned to everyone who had followed him and thanked them for their trust, assuring them that he was not greedy and would share the spiritual energy fairly among them. Grateful, the cultivators accepted his generosity and praised the young prodigy's magnanimity. Wang then called out to Princess Meng, telling her that he had already set aside a portion of the spiritual energy for her advancement. The princess blushed and playfully scolded him, asking why she should accept his spiritual energy when he had refused her jade pendant earlier. Wang smiled faintly and told her not to be impatient. He asked her to take out the recording stone and hold it tightly, because what was coming next, he said, would be the true event worth recording. The scene shifted back to the mortal world as the secret realm's rift tore open in time, an event only possible by someone at the immortal emperor level. No one expected an immortal emperor to be inside the secret realm, so the occurrence shocked everyone. An elderly woman of the Luo clan guessed wildly that perhaps it was Luo Dong, who had used the princess's Nine body to force a breakthrough and reach immortal emperor, convinced heaven favored the Luo clan. But the outcome was the opposite. Both Princess Meng Asterisk and Wang emerged from the rift together. The old woman was stunned that Wang had dared to enter the secret realm at all, disregarding the Luo clan's warnings. Wang checked if the princess was ready. She immediately ordered all troops of the Great Xia Divine Dynasty to retreat. The commanders were stunned, and one sent a telepathic question asking whether Wang had taken the princess hostage. She reassured him, saying she had given the order precisely so everyone could be protected. Understanding this, the commander ordered the Great Xia forces to withdraw, and within seconds they began to disappear, leaving the Luo clan in shock. The old woman cursed Wang, accusing him of hiding behind the princess for safety, but she remained certain that since he had come to the secret realm, no one could save him. Wang had expected such behavior from the scheming Luo clan. Because the clan itself had personally provoked him, he refused to be cowed. The old woman declared they didn't need the Great Xia's help to deal with a 5-year-old and urged her people to seize him at once. They started running toward Wang to capture him. At that moment, some Luo clan members who had accompanied the assault tried to intervene, arguing they should stop the ambush and let the princess and the child leave first. The old woman ignored them, grabbing one by the throat and throwing him down. Seeing this, the others realized their mistake and fled back toward the secret realm. Wang and Princess Meng watched the ruthless elder. She told Wang to stop dreaming. Even if the two great Xia generals intervened, the old woman had already reached the 4th heaven of the immortal emperor realm, making the generals no match for her. She demanded Luo Dong's location, promising to leave them alone if they told her. Wang only smiled, produced a small pouch, and suggested there might still be some of Luo Dong's remains inside, something she could collect as a keepsake. Enraged, the old woman threatened to grind Wang's bones to dust. Wang remained calm. He lit an incense stick and handed it to the princess, saying the time a single stick took to burn was how long their enemies had left to live. The old woman lunged at him. The great sage immediately acted, summoning the shadow-shifting spirit sealing formation, binding the entire courtyard with magical chains. The Luo elder stared in disbelief at the formation's power. When the sealing completed, Wang smiled, knowing the moment had come for the Luo clan's aggressors to fall.